Welcome back to Copperhead Customs. Today, we're back on this, our 1928 Oakland. Today, we've got some awesome ideas. If you want to see what they are, then you might want to stick around. So like I said, this is a 1928 Oakland. These were the granddaddy, sort of say, brand of the Pontiac,
before they were discontinued.
And this is one that we are creating, and we have made it from basically nothing. We've put a Ford 302 Cleveland and a C4 transmission. We've made full crocodile leather interior. We've made all the body panels ourselves. It's running on an existing chassis, but it's all been boxed in and X-framed. It has a Jag IRS rear end.
That's right, a Jag. That's right, a Jag. A Jag.
And it has a Jag IRS front end.
That's right, a Jag. That's right, a Jag. A Jag.
We've got all auto meter gauges, a custom built tray, a bumper bar off God knows what, wooden running boards, and in the last episode we made this wooden hard lid and wooden sides, and they are magnificent.
If you haven't seen them, you should go check them out down here when you finish this one, because it is well worth the watch.
So with all of that said, this car is turning out jaw-droppingly gorgeous.
But wait, there's more!
That's right, there's more to come. We've also got this custom carved snake head that we will use for a gear shift lever. But today, we are going to look at finally mounting our wooden running boards properly, mounting our guards.
Some people say fenders!
And we're going to turn our attention down here to the front. That's right, we're going to go from the back to the front.
Back to the front!
So we have this brass radiator grille shell, and we need to finalise the position of it and mount it. And also mount that radiator that came out of a old Commodore, which needs to also be chopped up and modified.
But that will have to be done externally because we don't have an oxy welder on the premises.
And we also want to look at a new bonnet. What we call a bonnet, you may call them a hood.
Yeah, so over here in Australia, we call them a bonnet. A bonnet like something you put on your baby's head. But in America, you call them, I'm pretty sure, a hood, like boys in the hood.
Just multiply colors. Colors.
So yes, we're going to go through our pile of parts out there and see. I think I have an idea of a bonnet that we can use on this. We'll need to modify it quite highly, but it should work. Also, we want to look at mounting maybe an emblem on here and an emblem on the front. Now I think this grille, yes, I think the grille shell may have come off of a Rover, which is a British car from what my research is. But it is brass, so we also want to shine that up. So the plan is to Scotch Brite it all up and then polish it so that it is shiny brass, and I think that should look pretty good. Also with our bonnet, we will want, once we have made it and made it fit and all that, we need to work out a mount, whether we get to that or not, and also it needs to be painted, patinaed, and maybe even some fancy trim pieces put on it.
But hey, that's not all!
No, that is not all. I also want to address some little wind deflectors on the side of the windscreen. Yes, I found some plastic strips, sheets, whatever. I want to attempt to cut these, shape these, maybe put some tabs onto the side of this windscreen post and put some little angled wind deflectors on there. So that's something else we will attempt.
So that's our plan. What we achieve, who knows? But what I'll tell you is this, we will do it for next to nothing.
So with all that being said, which was a lot, let's get some work done.
Can we hurry up now and do something? Yeah, hurry up and do something! Stop talking and do something!
Yeah, that's right, that is a walking stick. And so is this.
This is, of course, a walking stick, but he has carved in a snake head and scales. And it looks
pretty damn good. So what do you reckon we will use this for on the Oakland? Well, if you guessed it maybe in the interior, you'd be right. But what are we doing? I'm not going to show you that just yet. But what I will show you is what he did. So this here is like a beautiful piece of artwork that he did. He even carved the fangs in it. Everything, mouth open. This would have been quite a challenge for him to do. So anyways, what the plan for me is, I'm going to stain top through the sides of his head, his back, all of this part in our red stain, which is what we use on all our woodwork. So it will match our other woodwork on the build. And on the underneath side, under his jaw and his belly, so to speak, we will leave that unstained. Then we will varnish the whole thing and it should look an absolute treat. Now, one thing I did do to this is I did put the tiny little earrings, drilled them in, and we will glue them in. They're actually in quite deep. They're probably not coming out, but we might just dab a little bit of glue. And I just got a texture and put some black there, and I think when that's varnished, it should come up looking pretty good. We'll see what it looks like. Now, I'm not one of these pretty glove-wearing mechanics because I just think they're absolutely painful, and there's this stuff called soap you can use to wash your hands, but the stain can be a pain to get off, so I'll put a glove on. Maybe it's a new age thing. I think this is going to look really good. As you can see, the stain is getting in the scale lines and actually leaving them quite well exposed. So that's pretty much exactly what we wanted to happen. And I think that looks very, very good. Alright, it's upside down, drying. There's one coat on it. I think it's turned out pretty damn good. It's actually worked perfectly to what I wanted. The scales are dark with the stain. We got the brownish reddish colour on the back, which matches all the rest of our woodwork. Then we got this nice little slightly blonded colour on the inside because the snake's belly is blonde. A little bit around his mouth, a bit blonde. I think that works a treat. So yes, as we were saying, this came out of a Holden Commodore. So this was obviously the bottom for the trans cooler. It may have been a side mount, I'm not really sure. But we also have these pieces here, which were the sides of it at some point in its life, which we have to work out how they are going to go on back on. So we need to work them out, how they work. Now this was mounted originally in my 32 Ford. So this part on the side and this was all part of the mounts for it, and it also mounted a thermofan. We're not worried about any of that. With our ports, they need to be size changed, rotated, and this one at the bottom blocked off. We don't have a filler. We can put an external filler in our hose, or we could try to get a filler put in this when we get these changed. But our first step is to address our mounts, then sit them inside our grill shell and see how we can bolt the two together. All right, Rooney. Over my shoulder, you can see there is our nose cone, radiator, grille, whatever you want to call it. Now that there is the angle it is going to be run at. So if we come up closer, you can see the radiator is just on a slight off of vertical, which then angles the front of that. Now that's pretty much touching on our light bar. And that is actually not a bad look on the side profile. I think you should agree. That looks pretty good. Now, we've also got it raised up slightly so that we have a fairly nice rake between the top of that and the top of this. It's not exactly the same. It's probably just ever so slightly angled down. Put a level on there quickly so you can actually see what I am talking about. And as you can see, it is just ever so slightly up in the back there on that. So it's not far off. So it's a pretty good rake, as in our body line to our nose flowing nicely. Now when we come around to the front, here's our view from the front. That looks very good. But when we step back, oh, tripped over. When we step back here, I'm not liking down the bottom how our grille is there and our cross member is sticking out. So to me, it looks like it's too high. So yes, as you can see that down the bottom. So what I've come up with, something else, you're gonna have to wait, but I've come up with something that I'm going to do down in this area that's going to rectify that looking a little bit strange. And I think it should actually really tie the whole car together. I think it will be one of those pieces that brings the front back sides all together. As you can see here, we did have a bonnet, grille, whatever you want to call it, emblem there, and here would have been your radiator, probably your temperature thermometer, whatever, on the top. So what I'm coming up with is I've made this little wooden piece. It's all grinded, and then I've made that little spade, and I've actually welded a bolt to the spade, and that's going to bolt in once it's all stained in there. So that will bring a bit of our wood, and it will bring a bit of our spade to the front. So I thought that might look pretty trick for a little grille emblem. And then this here, now I'm pretty sure these are off of a 57 Chevy. I think these are the bonnet spears, and I've made a little bracket to bolt that in on there. I think that looks okay. Probably pretty hard to see there, but yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So that's going to be our grille emblem. So we've been busy. It is stifling hot today, and it's going to get hotter this week. Grill itself, you probably didn't see what I did, but I just made some angles, little angles up down in there, welded them onto the cross member. I'll show you what I am thinking about the bonnet. This is the bonnet that I have found in my pile, and I think it's going to work. So the back is very near perfect size. Our little line on the side, our body line, is a touch high, but it's passable. Basically, we snip it off around here. The front is very close. When we cut it, will be very close to the front of our grille. I think that may work.
The following day.
Okay, so this here is what we have decided to do. This is what I come up with to fill up that gap that we had through the bottom there, and I think that kind of works. Now that's still got to be stained. They've all been sanded and ground up. What we've done is we've welded 2 flat bars onto the edge of the chassis rails, which these will get screwed into, and then we'll put our 2 decorative spades on. They're going to be painted black, of course. They'll get drilled on. That's what I have come up with to fill that gap. I think it looks okay. It just fills that gap, so now you can't see that cross member anymore. Drop your comments on what you think of that. It was something a little bit out there. I think it's going to work. So that's ready for paint and stain. What we're going to do now is we're going to quickly throw our bolts back in on our grille assembly, and I think we'll grab our bonnet and we'll put that on and we'll start marking and cutting that. Okay, so there's our bonnet. It's actually worked a lot better than I thought. We just gave the back a little trim to follow the line. We're going to give it a tiny bit more just there, just to neaten this, give this gap perfect the whole way through. And then the front, we just knocked the front off and then slowly trimmed it back and married that in. We just pulled the bend out a little bit, and it basically is almost perfect. Now I had a tack here, I had a couple of tacks here that I cut the two side ones off to get it to fit better. We've got a tack there temporarily. We've just thrown 4 Tek screws in it. The reason being is what I'm planning on doing, that's basically going to be how I'm going to mount it. I'm going to have 4 bolts in it. Back here, I'm going to weld some nuts into the tub. So where these holes are is going to be, we'll drill them out and weld some 10mm nuts in there and there. And on the front here, we're going to use the little slide over a piece of sheet type nut, if you know what I mean. You'll see anyway. And we'll do the same. We'll have a 10mm nut there and there. And so it's going to be 4 10mm bolts to take it off, and so be it. We're also going to do some little, this type dress spades. We're going to do 4 of them, I think. Little ones, vert like that. And I'm going to run one long one down the centre. I think that should look pretty good. But overall, it looks like it was meant for this car. The triangular shape running in from back to front to back, is absolutely perfect from here to this nose cone. And our curvature across the back is perfect, and our curve onto this nose cone is perfect. I think you will agree that this angle is perfect. It basically looks like these components were all from the factory together. So I'm actually very, very impressed with this. So the plan now is we will grind up our little decorative pieces and we will weld them on. We'll do them with this stitch style like we've done here. Have our holes drilled. We will then look at painting it. Our nose cone is now finished, so the same thing can happen to our nose cone. We can pull this now off and we can polish it up, mount all our tricky pieces on, and that is done. And our wood at the front is all finalised, so that can all come off now and paint and stain and varnish. So basically, we've got this nailed. And having a quick look from the front on view, you'll see what I was talking about with the triangulation. It flows perfectly. Okay, we are back and stinking hot today again. So here's our brackets for the front for our wood painted. We have painted the bonnet, hood, whatever you want to call it. So it's had a coat of the red oxide primer, rust converter, whatever you as well it is. And it's also had all of the spades. So these spades I've put through where the bolt holes are. So that's like a reinforcement to pin it down. Same at the back. And then we've put this one through the middle, stitched it on with that stitch technique. You know, I've even deliberately put some runs in and everything for ripping a bit of patina back on that hood, so that should look pretty good. Underneath's been painted as well, and we went around and ground all the edges up. Our woodwork has all been stained and varnished, and if you realise I'm deliberately not showing you in the shed. There's our bonnet emblem, and our other little baby spade is painted, so it's all done now. I'm looking at it now. You're not. You're looking at me. I'm looking at the car. I've done the grille first go over on it. I'm not showing you. You're going to have to wait till later on in the video. But it looks amazing. Seriously, it is going to completely change the look of this car. And it looks absolutely amazing. That's the only word I can call it. It's... hopefully it all flows, but just it sitting there, OMG. So, you're going to have to wait until tomorrow, which for you will be in a few minutes, when we put all of this stuff on to see it. So, that's enough for today. It's late, it's hot, I'm buggered. Filthy, need to go have a shower. Little mate's down here. As you can see, he's had enough. So, we'll see you in the morning.
The following day.
How good does that look? So as you can see, we've got our wood down the bottom with our black spade pieces. That looks pretty trick now, and that flows the wood through out the build now, front, sides, back. We've also put our wooden emblem on this beautiful piece. I've shined the brass up quickly, gave it a quick polish, and I think it looks pretty good now. The insert of the grille was just made out of steel from what I could see. It was not chromed. So I decided to paint that satin black, and I think that it was a risky move, but I think it actually paid off. I think that looks absolutely unreal. We've got our 57 Chevy bonnet spear put up the top there. We gave this a quick coat of paint as well, and then we stuck our bonnet on. Now we need to probably do a bit better work on the sanding of the patina. It's a little bit blotchy at the moment, but as you can see, that looks a treat. It's mounted perfectly. We've got our 2 bolts at the front on our little clips, I'll show you later, and we've welded a couple of nuts in the back here, and we've got 2 nuts on the back, so 4 bolts that on. It's not going to come off very much. You can get to check your oil and everything with the bonnet on, so that won't come off very much at all. The front end, I think, is a jaw dropper, and I just keep making this car look better and better and better, and there's still more to do. So drop your comments on what you think of it. we are back. How good's this car looking? Anyways, enough of that. As good as that looks, which it looked gorgeous. Feast your eyes over here. This is what we've just made. So this was, I've got a heap of these little strips of plastic. They're actually out of my spa bath. I've got like a spa bath, barley hut type thing, and it has little windows in it. Little louvered windows, and these are the louvers. And now I have about 30 or 40 spare ones if we ever had some break. And so I pulled a couple out. So I had a heap of them, and I had this idea about making some little wind deflectors, because as you can see from here, the windscreen is very narrow and the wind is gonna beetle in, and then, you know, maybe you want it, maybe you don't, but I just thought, especially for the boss sitting over there, keep the wind off a little bit. So I had this idea of the deflectors, which a lot of hot rods have these. Now I don't know how much they cost, but to buy them, and I just thought, oh, let's make our own. So we made some little baby spades. These are off of I've got a heap of them from the race car. And we made these. So we just cut the plastic. We used a grinding disc for our radius. Just set a grinding disc on there to get our radius. Then we just cut that and used a flap disc to do it. Ran around the edges. Drilled a couple of holes. Boom, boom. And I think they look good. Now they're sort of fixed. Now we can change this angle by giving these a clout. Undoing them, giving them a clout, putting them back on. But I think they were a pretty good angle. So that's what we did this afternoon. There's the front. The front looks so nice, guys. If we stand back here and look at the car now, hey, it is really starting to come together now. The back we did last week, the hard lid, the rails, absolutely gorgeous. The little piece in there, gorgeous. Now we've done the front, so now the front is up there with the back. It's coming together, guys. It's coming together. So we've still got more to do in this episode. We're going to look at mounting the running boards correctly. So we want to bolt them down and then make some decorative spades. So we'll get them down first. Then we'll look at these guards. Mounting these guards, I haven't quite worked out how I want to do it yet. I've got a lot of ideas and none of them I'm overly impressed with, so hence why they're still not done. But we will get them running boards mounted first and we will go from there. So we will re-adjourn tomorrow. We are back, Aruni. I didn't record much today, but we have been very productive. So our running boards are mounted. We've just put the one dress piece on. And as you can see, boom, they are strong as anything. We may put some more dress pieces on later, not quite sure, but I just put one on for now in the middle there. I think that looks pretty good. Our guards, oh, yes, I finally hit that bear in the room, the guards, and this is how I've done them. So as you can see, got a bit of a gap. Hopefully they're not too low. This has a lot of suspension travel. What we did is we did three spades. Hopefully you can see them. 3 spades. We welded them onto the tray and bolted them onto the guard. So hopefully they work a treat. Now we do have this gap in between, which is what I was a bit weird about with the whole, with the guards. That's why they hadn't been done, because I wasn't too sure about that gap. But I think that's okay. I think they look all right. They look really good from the side and everything. It's just that was the one view I wasn't too sure about. And we've done the other side as well. Pretty much a mirror image. And that's pretty good. Seeing those 2 guards was slightly different. But yeah, we've got that one pretty good as well. And the running board all mounted. So I'm pretty happy with the look in the end of that. I think that looks pretty trick. Now, something else I did today, which these were not actually for this car. They were for our Chevy. But these here I picked up the other week off of one of those China stores, Temu or something. It's like Wish or whatever. Now these are motorbike mirrors. Now here's a little, I don't know. Here's a little trick, or this is what I've been doing, is these mirrors, I think the ones that I've got that are on the bedford are the ones that mount on the top of the doors, that mount up on here. Yeah, and they're just a little round mirrors like those. They were like $200 or something ridiculous, $250. Now these are off of a motorbike, which actually they mounted better. So we've got this little bent arm. This here unscrews and can go anywhere on that arm. And then this all swivels, and then this can swivel whichever way. So they are much more universal for this car. It's a way better idea. I actually bought them for that car, but they work good on this. I think these were $15 or $20 for the pair. Now, I don't know. I think they suit that car or the way that they are, and they're off a motorbike, and it's just something a lot of people probably don't think that, yeah, you can go get motorbike stuff for some of this because they make so much of it. But anyway, beside the point, what we've done is we've got our guards finally mounted. So we got heaps done in this episode. I think you'd have to agree. We fabricated this bonnet and we had no idea what it come from. But gee, it fits well. And check out the nose cone. That is a stunner. We've fully mounted our radiator and nose cone. We got emblems. We did this beautiful wooden piece with the spades to enclose the front.
To make it look better.
And we put on this badge. How good's the front of this thing? Look. We also made these wind deflectors from nothing to stop the wind blowing through our hair. Mirrors from a motorbike. We finally mounted these running boards. And yes, we finally mounted these stinking guards that I've been putting off for months. And don't forget, last week we made all this. Our hard lid, our wooden side rails. And don't forget the logo. So all in all, I think you'd have to agree that this car is turning out amazing. But it's not over yet. No, it's not over yet. But it is getting close to being finished.
Fabrication wise anyway.
So, I hope you enjoyed today's episode and maybe you learned something.
Yeah, maybe it was what not to do.
Now next week, I'm not sure if we're on this or if we're going back onto our 38 Chev. But until then, thanks for watching and we will see you next week.